Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
Intane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. I'm very excited to have our guest on today. If you haven't heard this podcast before, you know we scour the country and the world to find people that are inspirational, aspirational, and just pretty awesome with stories. And why I'm really excited about the person today is because just recently, actually just 4 or 5 days ago, depending when you listen to this podcast, I just finished up doing a Misogi, which we'll talk about in a bit. But this Misogi was actually inspired by the guest that I'm talking with today, and we'll get into that as we go on. But essentially, a Misogi is a Japanese term where, in the past, the Japanese, I guess, in the samurai warriors would go into the cold forest and do something really hard that was hard in those days. But in the modern world, looking at Ryan Holiday and other people that have taken the Misogi concept, they basically said every year in your life, pick something that is really hard to do that is going to affect all the other days of your year. And the only rule of the Misogi is it shouldn't kill you. Be hard enough to, but it's physically, mentally, spiritually, do something, but don't die. That's essentially what it is. So without further ado, kia ora, welcome, and excited to have you on the podcast, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It's,
beauty, Scott.
it's been, well, we've known each other for a while now, haven't we? Well, you'd be happy to know I just finished uni last
Yeah,
Wednesday.
I'm so
So 4.5 years in the making.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but thanks for having me on.
No worries. And it's really quite cool the timing of this podcast and for so many reasons, I've just
Yeah,
finished my Misogi, you're about to do yours, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But also
yeah.
you finished your degree. It all sounds pretty awesome, but we both know that this has been a journey of so
For
much,
sure.
so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So I
yeah.
guess for people who know nothing about you, Scott, do you want to let people know who you are today on today is the 3rd of June.
Um, who I am, what I'm up
Yeah.
to. Well, I would consider myself as a senior student. Well, not anymore, so as of last Wednesday, having a bit of a hiatus from the old books, as it was probably come at a pretty good time. I was definitely struggling with the fundraiser that we'll allude to, um, which has got different dynamics to it, as well as studying. Although it just be the one paper, it still takes up some time and cognitive capacity, as well as still trying to make a living. Um, when you study one paper, you aren't able to make student loan or student allowance, so that's been a learning experience as well. Um, but yeah, at the moment, um, yeah, this fundraiser is probably the biggest thing that's like taking a lot of my resources. So it's getting into crunch time. We're 2 weeks out on Friday.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's exciting. It's also like Misogi is one of those things. Like I think it if it doesn't scare you, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's already done. So it should scare you. And I mean, like in your realm, it's sort of like kind of finding the time when you work full time and having to keep turning up each day and grinding away. Yeah, and now you're done. You're just like, sweet, that was cool, I guess. Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's so crazy. And before we get into the whole Misogi thing, let's talk about Scott 4, 5 years ago. You're at this journey now, and you've changed dramatically as a human, which I've seen. And if
yeah,
I if I
yeah,
said if I said to you 5 years ago, hey Scott, in 2025, you would have done one Misogi and you did another Misogi. What would you have said to
yeah.
me at that point in time?
Uh, well, 5 years ago, um, well, I'm turning 28 this year, so we say 22-year-old Scott. He, I think a term that I've used in communications was I was probably still quite arrogant. I wasn't as arrogant as I was at high school. I still felt like I had a chip on my shoulder, but I was arrogant in a way that I had done nothing. Um, I had had a lot of people through high school and through my teenage years say that I would amount to something. And I think at that time I was kind of just trusting their judgment and words that maybe one day me amounting to something might just arrive. Um, so yeah, 5 years ago, I'd still say that person was around. I would say that that person has maybe started to flip the script over even the last 9 months. I was still pretty arrogant maybe 12 months ago, although I hadn't done anything. Um, and I think now that I have maybe put my ego aside a little bit more, um, just as well as a lot of other things. I like haven't amounted to anything, and there's no reason for me to have arrogance. Um, Now I've maybe had a little bit of the ability to see where I was confusing my arrogance with confidence, and I can truthfully say that I was being an arrogant person. Um, so yeah, 5 years ago, probably like I due to COVID, I ended up coming to university here. Wanted to go into a line of work that was similar to what I worked in recruitment. So at the time, it was surveying and then town planning and then a geography degree, and it was pretty surreal finishing a 4.5 years of study when I started a lot with my surveying classmates that have now graduated, and I kind of feel like, what have I been up to? Whether I would ever get it finished. Um, yeah, it was a pretty surreal moment. Um, but I guess finishing that is just like anything, like, well, success isn't always going to be linear. So I'm glad that I'm kind of on this journey now. Um, Over the last nine, maybe we could say 12 months. Yeah. Um, and I'm sure you could probably back that up that 5 years ago, is a completely different person to now. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I love that share because it is those labels that we get put, when you're people also want the negative labels, but the positive labels are just as harmful when they're like, oh, you're gonna do something in your life and you're awesome, all those things there which we subconsciously believe. But as you
Yeah.
said before, you just believe those things, but you don't action them. And I still remember meeting you at the Green Door Cafe 4.5
Yeah.
years ago, 5 years ago, when we had the chat and you're like you walked in and I just remember and you're like, yep, this is what I want to do. Bring it on. All good.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had lots of conversations then and it's
Yeah.
been thing. But what I want to touch on is watching the change in you was when you found I know you've always been fit and healthy, but when you shifted and changed to the world of CrossFit, was there a shift in how you've seen the world? And I speak about that because CrossFit is demanding. It's
Mm.
physically demanding, mentally demanding. Or did the shift start happening before you found that sport?
It's a good question. I was obsessed with football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, through high school, and I was, yeah, obsessed and always training harder, probably it being too high on my priorities. And um, I felt like that could have potentially have gone somewhere, but where my friends were quite straight with everything else outside of the sport, I was probably a little bit more rogue. Um, Being a teenager, you get pulled in different directions, whether it's social life, going out and drinking, all of those things. Whereas my mates were pretty straight. They would be prefects. I would maybe be a little bit more on the rogue side. And then on the CrossFit side, I was always interested in CrossFit and like the methodology. I thought it was out the gate, like how intense it was. And I remember watching like the OG days of like Rich Froning, and when Matt Fraser was just coming through, and then ended up being Matt Fraser, and the same with Tia Claire Toomey as well. Um, but it was only until I really got to Dunedin, I played 2 years of soccer. Um, for some reason, I just didn't really settle into like the culture of the club, and for me, culture is a huge thing. Didn't really settle. I think I was some other bits and pieces might have been happening in my life, like just a completely new environment. I felt like at the time I was kind of hanging on to my girlfriend at the time's social setting and couldn't really have my own network of friends other than just like some really cool flatmates. Um, and then once I stopped playing footy, I got into CrossFit and I loved it like straight away. I was like, I knew exactly that I was gonna like froth this thing. It's so cool. And started doing it like just trying to be a sponge, learn everything that I could. When maybe I should be studying, I was watching YouTube videos on how to clean or how to snatch or like not studying, spending a little bit too much time in that space. Um, and then maybe it would be like 3 years ago, in December, I got asked to coach at one gym, and yeah, it was a bit of a fun transition to start with. So I didn't really feel like I like belonged there to start with, but I you just got to get the reps in, I think, and then you start finding more and more wins. Um, and I think that's where the path of like wanting to teach has kind of come in. The light bulb moment of when the penny drops, or you see someone really grasp something, whether it's like a subtle cue that is they have their light bulb moment, and um, you get to celebrate their successes with them as well. So I think that's where the whole wanting to go into high school teaching, and the fact that I've got some high school teachers that have had a massive impact on me and who I am now, whether they know it or not. I think is like a rewarding experience.
Yeah, and I love that story there, Scott, because we navigated that whole conversation together when when you were about to change your mind and you had that realization that actually through your whole life people have said to you that you're a natural teacher, that teaching is
Mm.
comes to you naturally, but we don't realize it until you have that light bulb yourself and you go, actually,
Yeah.
wait a minute, actually people have said this, but now, well, it's actually coming through, which
Mm.
is really, really awesome. So before we started recording, we started speaking about a Misogi, but before we talk about the Misogi, when did you start realizing that actually your mental health was something that was really part of you as a person? And I speak about mental health. We all have mental health, but when
Mm.
was the challenge of mental health? You go, actually, wait a minute, there's an awareness piece here that something else in my world is not clicking with the, if we use the analogy of a puzzle. We have the puzzle, there's a piece that's not right there, which we talk about.
Mm. Um, I I guess the main thing is like I've had like very little, I guess like severe mental health. Um, I don't want to say issues or problem and have it and challenges. Let's put it
Challenges,
that
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I had an incident last year where it was at the start of the year, and I just felt like a really like large burden to my network. Um, I felt like I was always cocking up, and that I was just like unstable, and that was just a small glimpse of like feeling really bad. Um, that didn't sit around for all that long. But I guess what I've now come to terms with um, some aid of my flatmate who's a psych major is, I guess, the misconception of what stress and anxiety is, and me talking about it openly about what I'm thinking about or what I'm telling myself, and that it just being I'm like quite an anxious person at times. But now that I know when it's coming in or maybe what's causing it, his is how I can kind of react or like deal with it. And that's still a journey. Like, I don't know how to pinpoint it and stop it straight away. And sometimes when I may be feeling a little bit ill-disciplined and something starts to creep in, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this. It's kind of like we talk quite openly with each other. It's like, what could be causing that? And maybe I'm just being procrastinating about my dreaded like time of going to the supermarket or something like that, and I just don't have enough food in the house or something like that. But um, so for me, relative to I think what other people go through, I can't really talk too much about mental health in that regard. Um, I guess like throughout this whole journey and especially the last 9 months is it always comes back to um, I was in a relationship and I was an avoidant attachment style. So something would happen and I'd be like, nah, I don't want to deal with that. I just keep my mouth shut and hopefully it goes away. Um, and I found out that that was me and it was me in a nutshell. And then it was like, okay, why am I like that? And it comes back to I guess, some certain points of my teenage years, or like even a bit before that, of like my mum really struggling with mental health, and the incident that I had when I was a 16-year-old, um, where she was suicidal when me and my mate were like going out one night and trying to unpack that. And I've now come to understand that that was kind of holding me back. The fact that I hadn't dealt with that or anything along those lines. And since maybe not then, but I've had like a not the best relationship with my mum. And then since the turn of the new year, I was like, sod this, like it's my mum, like I need to sort it out. And now that I've spoken to her about that experience and got her perspective on it, and we've able to like bring a new lease of love to our relationship has been quite liberating. And I don't know, I try to beat myself up too much about it because it's in the past, but and I'm grateful that I can move forward with her.
Yeah.
And it is quite liberating in that regard, yeah, for sure. Um, and I guess that's where that relativity is. So, like with me in my day-to-day anxieties versus that experience is like at the other end of the scale. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's important to realize that because we all live on a spectrum and we live on a scale, and on some days those scales are anxiety and it's over here, and then sometimes it's the stuff that, as you said before, it's stuff you hadn't think about. And I was actually in a workshop about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this really blew my mind. And I just before I jumped on, I read the article that's the university wrote about you, and you spoke
yeah,
about generational trauma. And it reminded me of what I learned in Brooke's workshop. Brooke basically said there's research that's shown from Harvard University and Cambridge that shows that generational trauma can go up to 9 to 15 generations before. And
yeah,
when I heard that, I was like, whoa, 9 to 15 generations, this is crazy. This is people that you don't even know their
yeah.
trauma is cycling right through your DNA or whatever.
It's
So
mad.
it's pretty crazy. And this morning I was facilitating a workshop with a colleague of mine, and she shared a story which again is it's super linked to this year. She is Samoan. She's born in New Zealand. She doesn't know who her biological father is. She's turning 60 very soon. She went to England a few years ago with her daughters, and she said when she landed in England, she just felt this real attachment to England. Like she had never been there before, nothing, no relationship to England. She goes
Yeah,
there, she's like, wow, this is what is going on here. She just felt it in her DNA. She came back to New Zealand, she does a DNA test, and her dad is English.
the
And
biological father's
biology
English.
father's biology father's English. And she's
Crazy.
like, she's like, how on earth? She's like, I did not know that.
Yeah,
How crazy is that? So when you think about what you just said
things
before
are
about,
mad. Like
yeah,
a way that we can't really, I guess, quantify.
yeah,
In that I think things like that kind of support it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So like like you said, those that relatively scale, you have no idea what could just tip you over. No idea, no idea,
yeah,
nothing, and none of us know that there. So, yeah, the reason I asked that question is because it's great for perspective to go, hey, yeah, you're at the stage here, but we all go through. I don't want to go to the supermarket.
yeah,
That's normal life stuff, and it's
yeah,
anxiety. This is what's happened in your world, but also the fact that you had the courageous conversation with your mum. That's
yeah,
that's a choice that you had to make, and it could have gone
yeah.
so wrong, but you took that option. So
And
yeah,
I think um, I think some people, and now that mental health is so like and it's good, it's trending in that way that it's now being a lot more talked about, and um, people have a lot more resources to go about it. That I know some people get a little bit irked. It's like, oh, now we're just becoming soft and stuff like that, and it's like I don't really understand that counter arguments too much. I'm, people's reality or their relativity to what's going on is theirs, and you can't really say that it is or it isn't. Like what they're going through is what they're going through,
yeah,
regardless of what wherever it is compared to your relative state. So, like for example, yeah, for me, like I might get a little anxious about going to the supermarket, but that could be someone else's like worst nightmare. Like, like I can still go out there, but for some people, be like, hell no, I am not leaving the four walls of my room because of anxiety. And for me, that sounds mad because I'm not there, but that is what they're going through. And I think we struggle to like, I guess it's having like a little bit more empathy there around why people have depression, or like what they're depressed about, what they're anxious about. It's like really like it's their reality. We should
yeah,
be able to say yes, no, maybe to those things. So
yeah. It's interesting because when I did my coach training and when I train coaches, I use a phrase that everyone's perception of reality is their reality.
yeah,
And as you said before, I have my perception of reality is so different, but it's not right or wrong. It's just
yeah,
my reality. And if you come and tell me like, what are you talking about? This is what I see, and then that creates more anxiety because of what is going on here. So as you said, empathy and just understanding
yeah,
another person's perspective is key. But how many times do we actually pause and do that there? That's the
yeah.
question, right?
And I want to just loop back to the generational thing. Um, since the start of the year, like talking a lot more with my mum, excuse me, about her upbringing. Her mum passed away when she was 13. Then became the mother of the household, having to do all the washing, the cleaning, the drying, the cooking, as well as go to school and do all these things. Her father, like my grandpa, wasn't the best of dealing with her mum passing away at a very young age. Um, so now that I have been given, I'm going to say data in that way, but it somewhat is, I'm be like, no wonder. Like it was super dysfunctional. And I'm just, again, like forever grateful that I still have my mum here and that we can still work through this
Yeah,
together. And now that she knows that I'm doing this thing, she's like, you're mad, but like hats off to you kind of thing. So, um, yeah. And I like again, it's quite traditional. As when World War II was going on, you've got all these other dynamics of what life was like then. Um, so now that's two generations away, if you want to call it that. And it's like hopefully, just in terms of the progress that we've made as a society, like over in the last couple of years, hopefully see it get better.
Yeah, and these things take time, and the only way it changes is with conversation and with understanding.
Mm.
If we use the avoidance tactic which you had in the past, nothing's going to get fixed, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's with everybody out there. We go, hey, if you avoid stuff, it comes up, manifests in different ways and in different surroundings. So
Mm.
your mom called you mad, but before we talk about madness right now, let's talk about what you did last year. What was your motivation to do your Misogi last year with the rowing?
Um, I Someone had done it that I knew through the CrossFit space, that did it but with running.
Yeah,
So again, to recap for those that are listening, 1K on the first, two on the second, three on the third, all the way to the last day of the month. I believe they did it for March. So however many days that is. And I thought about it and we had a comp and I was like, I feel like just wanting to do something. I just had an urge to do something gnarly like that. Like, I don't know why. And to like test myself and be like, well, that'd be pretty like messed up. Imagine if, and because the running thing's already done, I'm like, well, where's, like, not that it's not authentic, but someone's already done it and I've seen them do it. So can I be a little bit more original? Take the same premise and then
yeah,
change it a little bit. And I thought as well, like to start with, it's running is probably going to be a little bit harder on the body,
yeah,
but the row, you're not going anywhere. Like, and you know this now as well. It is so monotonous. You're just sat on a seat for however long. Um, so yeah, just like I was like, well, while I'm doing it, why don't I try like may raise money for some charity? And at the time, that was Mental Health Foundation or New Zealand. Um, and in the earlier stages, I could get like a little bit creative, like 3K is like a pretty generic test for rowers. So I was like, well, I was going to try and test my 3K at the end. So 3K was like, let's go hard as possible. 4K, I did it with like another workout. Um, and yeah, as long as I got my kilometers in, I think you did a lot better job than me of like not breaking it up. I had a couple times where I was maybe a little bit hungover and had to break it up and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, it's just a like continuous thing of like having to get up and do it again, and it's not getting easier; it's getting harder. So yeah, it was such a cool learning experience, and I think that has kind of ignited something in me where I want to keep doing stuff like this, and I don't know what's going to be next, but yeah, it did ignite something in me. And I was like, that was a cool time. Like I learned so much about myself, um, and not in the physical way. Like I was saying to you
yeah,
beforehand, it's like it gave me confidence to go about things that there's no real direct correlation or anything like that. And what I was going to mention to you before was I work at a bar. I work at Max Bar in the center of the Octagon, and yeah, we have plenty of like homeless people that come through and they're on whatever and it is sad and like from a humanity perspective that whatever's happened in their life has led them down this path. Um, but one incident there was, how do I refer to her? Say like a familiar face.
yeah,
She was on a table outside. It was busy outside, so I had to do something because otherwise, you're not doing what you should be doing as a duty manager and looking after your customers, and then they start asking questions. And so I just go outside, and like typically I would avoid, I'd be an avoidant, and I'd be like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is crazy. So like I would typically just start like shitting bricks or like try and get someone else to do something or like not be able to just attack it. And then I was just like, dude, you've just rode 465 kilometers through the month. Get a grip. She's a human being. it's not going to be that bad. So just sucked up the courage. I went out there and I was like, hey, like, can we get a move on, please? Like, you know, you can't be here in a state like this. Um, she was like, yeah. Took a wee while, and by then I'd had the confidence. I was like, okay, now I've proved to myself that I can do it. I can do it again and again. And then she left, and then I was like, dude, that's like wicked learnings, you know, like just being able to have again some relative knowledge to go about other things in your life. And I think that's where like the whole doing hard things comes from. It's like giving you a different perspective of um, what is hard, or you know, just being able to suss things out. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's so interesting, is that because, like there's a phrase, choose your hard. Everything we do in life, you choose your hard. And
yeah,
we can do hard things. And I love how you spoke about, yeah, the physical stuff was the physical stuff, your hands and blah blah blah. But when you spoke to me about it last year, because I think I had just done the 4x4x48, the David Goggins thing, on
yeah,
the rower, and you're like, why don't you do this here? And I was like, oh, what are you talking about? Um, but I did say to you, I'll do it at one point in my life, and I was scared. I mean, it's terrifying. I mean, every day you got to wake up and do the same thing over and over again. But as you said before, it was the mental game. That's because the road just goes, your body goes, but the story you start telling yourself at 10Ks or 14Ks or 15Ks, you're like, what am I doing here? I could just stop. But then it goes away from the actual movement to other parts of your life. You start reflecting on other parts of your life. It becomes like a bit of a meditative state, and you start reflecting
mm,
about what did you do 10 years ago or five. But it's so crazy. It's so hard to even describe it.
yeah,
It hasn't done it.
yeah. Like, and then when I did the 30K, like my final day, I didn't listen to anything. I didn't talk to anyone. I had a bet with one of my mates to raw dog it, which I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Let's do that. Um, so yeah, that was cool. And then I finished, and I'm just like, well, that's that. Like, I'm still the same skin and bones, but I have, I guess, all these learnings of like just turning up the next day and the next day, and um, then a couple of weeks later, having confidence to deal with situations and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so I think that's kind of my one thing that I would try and say to people is like, you're probably going to learn a lot more about yourself doing hard things than,
Yeah,
um, yeah. Then the other thing comes in is like before doing these things. I think, like we mentioned, you got to be scared of it.
yeah,
If you're not scared, um, probably needs to be a little bit harder.
yeah,
Um, but that's kind of funny in itself because of with these full marathons coming up, I've had a bit of like some times where I've been like scared of going for a run when it's like 28 Ks and I've never done 28 Ks before. And then I do it and I'm like, oh, sick. Like I can do that and I can build those new barriers or like a new level of determination to like get through it and get it done. Um, so without it sounding like arrogance or anything like that, you start to gain some confidence of inevitability about being able to achieve it, but that does not mean that I'm not scared of it.
yeah,
Yeah, like I think, and this is just from like times that I've been in a situation throughout this prep and throughout the start of the year is I am I keep surprising myself or I keep sussing it and then you're like sweet and that's a new lease of confidence and now I'm just like you have to think about it so hard that there is the air of self-confidence or inevitability to it. Um, but that's not to say that I'm not scared, and I'm not scared for like the day after and how I'm going to feel then and all that other stuff. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I mean, you put it so so well that I similar to me. You finish the 5K, the 10K, but the next morning you wake up and you go, oh, I've got this again. I did it yesterday. I
yeah.
know I can do it, but man, today's another K, or you know, um,
You're
whatever,
heading
what
two
if, what
hours.
if exactly adding on 2
Yeah,
hours. But it's so funny the anticlimax at the end in terms of you finish your 30K, your 31K, and you just get off the rower. and everyone's just busy doing their life, and then you just leave the gym, and you're like, oh, okay. And like you said, life just carries on. You then, so
Yeah.
for me, it was on Saturday. I just jumped back in the car and went back inside to the supermarket, and
Yeah. Feel
you're
that,
like,
man.
cool. You're
You
like,
probably
cool.
need quite a lot of it.
So yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
It's
That's
it's a funny one as well. And I think that kind of like what you said there about like you just doing your thing and there's all these other people around you and it's like I don't care about you. Like
that's
you're
right.
just like doing your thing. Like
That's
I don't
right.
know
Yeah,
why we think that people care so much. So like yeah.
that's so funny.
Don't want to say that that doesn't sound like they don't care about you.
But
Your peers, everyone does, but yeah.
everyone's living their own world, right? Everyone's living their own
Yeah.
world, and as you said before, yeah, they care about whatever, yeah, but they care for you 5, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Okay, cool. Then they go back to their own world, which is fine, which is what we all do, right? This is it.
Yeah.
Our heart and their heart are two very, very different things, and that's like you said before, everyone's world is their world.
Yeah.
But so you did that last year. Now let's talk about the 20th of June, which is coming in pretty soon. What was the motivation for this bad boy here? And I can promise you, I'm not going to be doing this, even though we're having this conversation. You will not see
Yeah.
me doing this in
Well,
a
you
year's
never
time.
know. You never
Even, oh, I don't know about
know.
that.
Um, so what? I did 30K, right? That was the most I'd rode. Um, and I don't know where the inspiration came from. I think like running is blowing up right now. Like
Yeah,
every man on their dog in social media is running.
yeah,
Um, so I think there was a bit of that aspect to it. Not that it's like trendy, but I once said that I was going to run a marathon. Still yet to,
yeah,
but I want to run a marathon. Running as well as I've seen like a heap of Ned Brockman and seeing him run as well is kind of like, okay, I think that's where I want to set some efforts. Um, as well as high rocks
yeah,
and people being on ergs a little bit more.
yeah,
Um, so that is probably where I got some of the inspiration, and I don't think anyone has done this. I haven't found anyone that's done it since. So, um, although I've kind of kept it a little bit on the hush,
yeah,
we're going to try and do as much as possible to see if we can validate this for a world record, which will be sick.
yeah,
One way to put it. But yeah, it was just 4 marathons. I was on the piss. My mate had just finished his PhD, and we were just talking about this, and then I just kind of like I should actually do this. Like I don't want to be one of those people that just says things, I guess.
yeah,
And I'm still learning about that now. Um, so yeah, I was just like I just should commit to it. Like why not? And I think as well because I think a lot of people would like hear something like that and they're like, why is he doing this? Like what? Doesn't he have something better to do? Or like why is he? Like I think. And through the help of my fat mate and learning about some philosophy is yeah, existentialism. Um, there is nothing that tells me that I can't do this.
mhm,
I guess it's just the realms of the world that we live in.
yeah,
There's no reason why I can't do it or like why I shouldn't try and do it. Uh, so like knowing that first, and then you can bring to life anything that you think of.
yeah,
Um, yeah, is that's also been like a fun learning experience. So yeah, I wanted to do some CrossFit at the start of the year, and then we had a comp lined up. Once that was out of the way, it was like, okay, like I need 12 weeks to get myself in good shape. Um, then I did that ski, like 127K of skiing in a day. That wasn't a great idea, but we're here. Um, and I proved to myself that I can ski a marathon.
yeah,
So that was a good, again, like a little bit of confidence. It's like, sweet, like you can do that, you can do this. It's like some of those runs that are a bit extreme. You're like, oh, I can do that. Did 30K on the bike today. So like throughout this prep, I've had a taste of what it's almost like to do one marathon. So then come the day, um, I think we'll be well equipped. Yeah.
Yeah, for those of us out there who don't know what you're doing, do you want to tell them what you're actually doing on the
Oh,
day of the
yeah.
event?
So,
Yeah,
um, in order, 42.2 kilometer ski on an erg. I'll try and describe it. So if people have Google Earth or whatever, but it is, I'm not going to be out skiing in the mountains of Dunedin. I think that would be pretty hard. So, like the row erg, it just imitates what it looks like to ski. So we're going to ski a marathon, we're going to row a marathon, bike a marathon, and then at the end, we're going to run one. We'll be inside the four walls of the gym for the ski, row, and bike, and then we'll be leaving the gym and fighting the elements for the run. Um, so, yeah, in that order, I don't know why. One of my mates said you should do it like triathlon and
yeah,
finish with the run. And I was thinking about like we thought about what order to do it, and I think it would be quite a cool novelty to finish on the run, like just getting back to the gym and just being
yeah.
like, I've
Done.
done it, I've done it,
Yeah,
like it's done. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think we had like, you can probably still hear it, but I've been crook the last like 2 weeks, which hasn't been ideal, but we let some pretty good foundations through the earlier part of the block.
yeah,
Um, so it might have affected me a bit, but at that point, it's just going to be what have I got like upstairs?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's one foot from the other, or one stroke. It's just gonna be, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I heard a good quote the other day. It's if I can, I will. And you can
yeah,
always put one foot in front of the other, so you will,
that's right. Yeah,
regardless of how long it's going to take you. It's just a matter of survival. So
yeah,
yeah. Um, and like through running and stuff, you just like you have those conversations again. You just like yeah, it hurts, but it's not going anywhere. Um, I think that's one of the things that I learned like whilst doing a lot of their skiing. Um, is yeah, some aches and pains come up, but if you dwell on it, it doesn't make it disappear.
yeah,
So just appreciate it. You're like, yeah, sweet. That's the thing. Um, it's not the best, but it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So just take it in your stride and move on from it. Yeah,
yeah. Literally, right? Literally.
for
And
sure.
the physical training is, you're doing all that there, but the question for me is, what about the mental training? Because that is the hardest part, and you can't. I don't know if you can train for it because, yeah, I mean, I couldn't train for it. If someone had told me what I'll be thinking and 31 Ks, I would be, what are you talking about? So I
Mm.
guess it's not more about how you're training for it, is are you letting your mind just do its thing?
Um, Not really. Um, I you do have you you have to stay positive.
Yeah,
You have to stay positive, and this is like an analogy for anything. Um, there's times where, like for example, I run out to Port Chalmers and back, and if I run out to Port Chalmers, the wind might be going one way, and then when I come back, it's going the other way, and it might not suit me. But it's like again, it's that's out of my control. I signed up for this. Um, I can't do anything about that. You just got to keep going. Um, it's like when it is hard, again, like appreciate that it's difficult. Um, and again, this could be like analogies for anything.
yeah,
Appreciate that it is challenging, but you've got to figure out a way to get to where you want to get. Um, and sometimes that means having certain conversations with yourself, like this is where I grow. This is where I'm going to be like way better off. Um, Sometimes like you're just gonna have to suck it up. Like you made your bed, you've got to sleep in it, sort of attitude. Um, so I'm trying to think of if there's any like knowledge bombs that I can really drop off or hand off here. But yeah, just literally like it sucks, but it's not going anywhere, and you just got to like carry on. And I think having that growth mindset for sure, where you do say this is where I'm going to grow, this is where I'm going to benefit, is when it really does like um, hurt. Another thing that has been given to me from other people, which I've now started to believe, and it's kind of come full circle, right? Like where I talked about being an arrogant teenager. Some teachers had said to me that I am going to go far or I'm going to be successful. My dad always told me whenever I was playing rugby or soccer that I've got another 20% in the tank. Like always got an extra 20%. And I tell that to myself like all the time. And it's like if he can believe in me, then I can believe in me. And that this is the extra 20% he's talking about. Like it sucks. So this is it. Um, and I think that's like the really cool thing about right now is that I'm starting to see that about myself. Um, and it's only I'm going to be able to suss this out. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
And you
sure.
know what's important right there is your self-talk matters. You know, that self-talk, the story you tell yourself is what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah,
And you know, whether it's the 20%, you've got the 20%, or damn, my ankle is sore, whatever it is, that self-talk is gonna make you or break you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the self talk's a huge thing, and you you just have to figure out a way for it to be positive.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true.
Because again, it's that narrative or that reality. Um, like again, these are all analogies that can go anywhere. Is that was it Tom Hanks says, "It too shall pass,"
Yeah,
regardless of how bad or how good it is. It too shall pass.
yeah,
Um, so if it's yeah like a pain in my ankle, it'll pass.
yeah.
Me feeling like the man because I've just done 28K without stopping. That's gonna
That's
pass,
gonna pass.
like
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Because the next day you'll be back to whatever you're doing, and cool, carry on. Life
yeah,
carries on. Life is like cool. You did that. You did that yesterday. That was yesterday's. Today you're back to squat.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%. So, um, yeah, yeah, you just positive self-talk, and I think it's all well and good people telling you what you should tell yourself, but ultimately you have to know
yeah,
only you know yourself,
yeah.
and how are you going to respond to some things?
Totally,
Yeah,
totally. And it's your talk, right? It's your belief, your talk. You know, you can watch The Secret, you can do all these things here, but if you don't believe in it and it's not come from you,
yeah,
you
yeah,
forget.
yeah. So,
And
yeah,
let's look at the fundraising angle of this as well. So you're doing this, and this time your chosen charity is I Am Hope.
yeah,
Um, is there a link to that charity? And you know, also the number that you've chosen is also quite significant that you want to try and raise.
yeah. Um, so at the start of the year, I wanted to go into some therapy. Um, I just went on Gumboot Friday and found my counselor through that website. Um, at that at the time, so for me to only fall into or to be into I Am Hope, you have to be under 25. Excuse me. I'm 27, so I fell outside of that, but I found my therapist or counselor through the system of Gumboot Friday and I Am Hope. So I was like, cool, I found a guy, I like him. He likes me, I think. We get on pretty well. Um, so just because of that, I was like, okay, and I just like what they're doing. Um, I think kids, regardless of where they're at, is there's a lot going on. Like myself, and I think a lot of who I am today has come from my parents separating at like 13 years old. and having a counselor for a bit and then not, and then it was just suss this, and then my mum went back to the UK and we had our relationship, and I didn't suss any of that. So now I'm 27 again, grateful to have tools like that. So just wanted to give back to that kind of community. And yeah, the goal, um, the average therapy session for youth is $140, and just times that through 365 days, and you get $51,100. $51,100. Sorry. Um, and I think that's. I know there's a lot of what's the word? Like it does take more than one session, but a lot can happen after one session.
Yeah.
And I think just being able to do that, like having something like that, I was like, what's a gnarly goal again that I can think of that still has a little bit of a story behind it, um, and it's not just an arbitrary figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's I think it's important to just have like some thought behind it. Mm.
And that's what I like about everything you've done, Scott. It's everything's had some thought. It's not just random. There's some thinking behind it. To an outsider might go, "Oh, this is pretty random," but all of your challenges you've done have had some sort of thinking behind it. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's a mission, there's a vision, but there's also a reason behind it all. So
Appreciate it. Yeah, I think
yeah,
we had yarns about it the other day, and when I had the University of Otago, they were like, "What's a Misogi?" And I was like, "It's just one thing that shapes your 364 days. It,
yeah,
yeah, like you said, should hopefully not kill you." The fact I've called it Scoots Misogi is like
yeah,
a nickname that I've had with me since being a teen, like since I finished school, pretty much.
yeah,
Just to like, yeah, I guess just to kind of amplify that I'm just trying to be my most authentic self, and
yeah,
like let's not try and take this shit too seriously, but like
yeah,
let's have a bit of a laugh while we're at it. Yeah, not an arbitrary financial goal.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So try
yeah.
try to have some sort of element of thought behind it. Yeah,
And for our listeners who might want to, help you, donate or whatever, what's the best way they can start,
yeah.
helping with this? Yeah.
So the best thing to do is probably follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at scott.cdub. There is a link to the fundraiser in that. Alternatively, if there's any businesses that are out there listening, they can get hold of me on 027 559 1570. I'm looking for some commercial sponsors, so just give me a call. Um, What else? Anyone that's in Dunedin this weekend, we are having a community run at CrossFit Primed. We're going to have a sausage sizzle afterward. There's going to be two routes, a 5K route and a 13K route. My thing is do hard things, so best be prepared to do something hard. Uh, and to be honest, the weather isn't looking too sharp, so I think it's going to be pretty challenging nonetheless. But that is, yeah, at 10:30 CrossFit Primed this Saturday. So just a gold coin donation, sausage sizzle afterwards. Giddy up,
Yeah, giddy up. And
giddy up.
I'll we'll put all links in the show notes, for anyone to
Brilliant.
get hold of you if they need to, and all the places where we shared as well.
Sure.
And no, it's really cool. And I'm gutted I'm in Dunedin because I would love to be there, but hey, who knows? I could.
I'm live streaming it.
Yeah, oh, brilliant, even better.
It's going to be live streamed on Facebook, so just make sure we're Facebook friends.
Yeah,
But yeah, like I said, once I just chat GBT'd, has anyone done this before?
yeah,
And just had a look, and then I went on another AI and had another look, and there was no one had done it. There's a guy in America that's done a half a full, a half a full, but not full four fulls, which is a tongue twister in itself. But yeah,
exactly. False balls.
so
Yeah,
we're trying to validate it as much as possible now. And I've got my mum in the UK that she wants to see it. She can see it. I've got mates all over the place back home in Taranaki, other parts of New Zealand and the world that um, I think they'll be interested to see where I'm up to throughout their day. Just check in, see if he's still kicking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
have the live stream, and then
do you have a crew as well? Or are you doing everything solo?
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is like the other part that's been like a learning experience. It's like all well and good saying I'm going to do this fundraiser, but where you like I'm going to get my body fit,
Yeah.
get my mind fit. I've got a gnarly financial goal that I would like to hit. Uh, so like getting commercial sponsors and having some business acumen and a pitch ready and some ways that we can get sponsors in the door that's like a little bit creative, which I kind of struggle with a little bit. Um, and having the confidence to go up and talk to some business leaders, asking them for money is quite scary. Then I've got the running of the day. Like, what do I need to have organized? I need to have my nutrition in lock. I need to make sure that, like, given that we're trying to get a record, like, okay, we can live stream it. Someone's helping us live stream it. Okay, how's that going to look? We need to plug the rowers into the TVs. We've got all this other stuff to do. Sweet. Um, People that want to help, what can they help out with?
Yeah.
Is it just going to be straight support and them yelling at me? All good. If not, we need witnesses for to make sure that I'm actually doing what I'm saying I'm doing.
Yeah.
Uh, there's all these other things that I just never thought would be, part of it. And again, that's like again a learning process as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But and that's the crazy thing, right? You the things you can control, and all the other
yeah,
stuff. Actually, I can't do this myself. I need people. I need people.
yeah, yeah. I'm like one. I'm not to say like I'm a control freak or anything like that, but I would. I don't want to impede on other people's shit that they've got going on. So I'm just. I'd way rather do it myself, and then I know that I'm doing it. But I've had to put that aside, and like if people say that they can help out, it's like okay, sweet. I'll actually think about that and hold you onto it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. So and I'm so grateful. Like I haven't even done anything yet, but I'm like already so grateful for the donations that we've had, and I think we're at just shy of $2,400, which is mad.
Yeah.
Like if someone transferred me that much money now, I'd be wrapped. I'd
Yeah.
be so stoked. So there's that. There's like the people that are like um, helping me with my nutrition. I've got a mate that used to study down here in Perth that's helping me with my nutrition. I've got a local fella that's helped me with my running. I've got my flatmate that puts up with the shit that I want to talk about all the time. Um, yeah, guys at the gym, like it's just crazy, and the list could go on. It really
Yeah.
could. Like, and I'm forever grateful of like all these people that are just like willing to help me out because I want to do this thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I've just got to turn up on the day and perform.
Yeah. And we'll be
Yeah,
cheering it from afar. But
yeah,
no. Scott, we've been chatting for almost an hour, and you and I both know we can keep talking for a long, long time about all the
yeah, for
things.
sure.
But I guess we will. I mean, you've shared so much today, so many learnings, so many things that hopefully our listeners will take away. But we have a tradition on the podcast to close off the podcast. We like to ask the question. This podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah.
What we'd invite you to share a piece of knowledge to put into our basket for ourselves and for our listeners, and this could be from any aspect of your life.
Um, I think I'll just say that everyone should believe that they've got extra 20% in the tank. Um, my father always believed in me that I had that, so and I'm coming to recognize that now. So that's one thing. And if you can, you will. If you can take one more step, you will be able to take one more step. So just believe in those two things, and hopefully that sets you on your way.
Yeah, and it's so true because they can both work the negative as well, right? If you can believe that you're not going to, you will not believe in it. If you can
Yeah,
believe you'll fail, so it's really beautiful too. And the key that you kept on mentioning throughout the whole conversation is the positive, forward in the forward motion, not the other motion.
yeah,
Yeah, so beautiful. Um, so much knowledge bombs here today, Scott. And I really appreciate your friendship. It's really quite funny. There was a time in our conversations where it changed from me being your mentor or whatever crazy relationship we had
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
to just shifting a little bit to go, actually, hey, this is a very, very different. It's become a friendship, which has been really, really cool.
yeah,
And just watching you, grow over the last, 5 years or so is really quite inspirational. But also that impact that you've had on other people, but also yourself is it cannot be negated as well. So we'll look
yeah,
forward to seeing what happens on the 20th of June.
yeah,
Yeah, which is really cool.
yeah. Appreciate for you. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on this podcast. Um, Talking a lot about some all sorts of different things and stuff like that. So for those listening, I hope they can take some things away. And
Yeah.
yeah, we might need to do another one for afterwards.
We will do it after the podcast as well. You might be a world record holder at that point in time.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I might have to get
well,
into I might have to get into line with that, competing with
yeah. I mean, like
CNN and Al Jazeera and
it'll be mad, but yeah, just
yeah,
can't wait. We're gonna have a full house. I've got a mate from Ireland that's gonna be here. My dad's coming down. Maybe my mate from Nelson. Maybe some from Christchurch and Wellington, and they're all gonna park up in our lounge. Which, when you say it like that, it's not gonna be a lot of people, but it's gonna be sick. So let's go.
let's go. Exactly, no beauty. Scott, thank you so much for our listeners out there. Just remember if you wanna sponsor Scott, or if you know your business is able to help Scott, everything's gonna be in the show links. And you know what I do as I just connect people. So beware of getting bombarded by me over the next few months or the next few
Yeah,
weeks. But this year, Scott, thank you so much. For our listeners out there, hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully you've been inspired as well. You don't have to go to a marathon. You don't have to go to a half marathon, but find out what your marathon is and what your half marathon is and give it a crack because as Scott said, if you can, you will. So until next time,
couldn't agree
stay
anymore.
awesome. Ka kite, and thank you, Scott. Bye,
Cheers, mate.
everybody.
See you later. Bye bye.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.